February 6, 2019 regular session. Please silence or shut off your cell phones and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So additions or deletions, you gave us an updated agenda.
Yes, you're back.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I know, I'm sorry.
The only thing I was going to say, I mentioned Melanie scratched the letter response. Did you want to take any action on that today? Or you want to wait until after you get a chance to visit with?
We'll wait on that until after I have a chance to talk to the legislators and
Very good.
the senators and the representatives.
I think that's a good idea, and to use that letter as the best tool we can when they can use it as a tool. My thoughts. I'm also comfortable with signing it anytime you would like to have it signed.
Sure.
I would personally like to have it, or something similar, in the paper, just so the public, our public, knows where we stand. I know that most of them do, but
Is that possible to, once it's out there and we've signed it, to kind of make it public? And then
Well, it's very public at this time. It's on the video and everything. We send out a lot of letters over the years for support or whatever, or oppose different things. The normal practice hasn't been to put those in the paper. There's usually a cost to put those in the paper.
Mm-hmm.
The paper will report on what we do. So if you're one that set a different protocol or whatever, that's.
Would a public, just reading of it be sufficient, do you think? And
I'm fine with that. And we don't have to do it today, but maybe after you talk to the legislators, we do read the letter
yeah.
publicly, and then it will be public.
Read the letter into the record.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, so is there any other changes or deletions? Okay, so public comment. Mayor, no updates, no public comment? Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
First item is vehicle purchase policy. I don't know if that's written appropriately, but anyways, there was a request from the sheriff to vary from what I consider has been the policy in the past. It's not setting new policy. That wasn't the way it's presented to me, but anyways, is there any action to be taken on that?
Mark?
I believe the sheriff should be able to have whatever color he wants, but that's my personal opinion.
If it, for me, I don't want to stray from what is county policy. And so if it becomes necessary, I'd like to have it written what the policy is. And that was kind of stems back to our conversation yesterday about having an actual policy in regards to color, but having maybe an exception for law enforcement. The sheriff did request a gray vehicle, but it was because of policy, for policy reasons. It was put out as white. And so I'm not sure if we need to make it an actual policy, but for the future, if it is something that we have room to discuss about the particular color, I want to make sure that all parties involved know what color they're getting before it actually goes out for bid. If they request gray, I don't want to just change it to white because that's our policy. I'd prefer them to know what they're getting. Unfortunately, Mr. Hobble was not here for the meeting when we made the decision to put that bid out. But in the future, I'd just like to try and make sure that everyone's included.
So I think there needs to be some clarification. I'll let Melanie speak here in a minute. The way we're set up is we have a vehicle committee.
Yes.
It comes to the vehicle committee. vehicle committee makes a recommendation to the board of commissioners. We have a fleet manager that our RFQs go out through our fleet manager, and they're supposed to follow all the guidelines of our purchase agreement. Our committee made a recommendation to the board of commissioners. The board of commissioners followed the recommendation that went through a process. That's a good process, and made a decision. So I very much believe that the process that we have in place is good. If we need to change that process, and if we need to change the policy, perceived policy, because I can't find it in writing, I believe it was a consensus of the previous board.
Yes.
And I haven't found the minutes, but anyways, if we want to change what is the perceived policy and the direction that we have worked for years, it should go to the vehicle committee. They should make a recommendation to the board, and it should be researched on an efficiency and the reason why we would be doing that. Our fleet manager, over the years,
Yes.
we've made some huge efficiency improvements using the guidance that we have now. We have packets that every vehicle is supposed to be, they turn in their accident reports, they turn in their monthly reports and all that. We have a system that works pretty well, and I would really encourage this board to work with the fleet manager, work with the committee, and look at what the positives have been done for a lot of years, and the cascade effect that we've done with vehicles, the efficiencies. Because here in about a month, whenever we get into our budget time, we're going to be asked about efficiencies, especially in our vehicle side. And we need to be able to show our budget committee the efficiencies that we're doing.
Absolutely.
And the reason why we've changed from what we're doing now. So that's my opinion. I have a lot of ownership in it over the years. So I'm willing for there to be a motion made. It sounds like, Mark, you're ready to make a motion, so I wanted to lay out, and I apologize. I'm very passionate about the vehicle program.
I
And where we've
understand.
been.
I understand, and Melanie's done a fantastic
Yeah,
job.
I haven't given Melanie as a fleet manager the just that she deserves to be able to speak. So,
Can I say something? real
Absolutely,
quick?
ma'am.
Thanks. So, I think it's difficult to know if we're going to cascade a vehicle down. Sometimes we need to cascade one down because of budget reasons. So changing the color without knowing for sure whether it's going to be cascaded down, I think is going to be a problem with the fleet and pool vehicles. Like one's going to the assessor, one's going to go to maintenance. They're both white. Our policy is to have white pool vehicles. So I think you guys should consider that. Like with the police package vehicles, they can't be cascaded down. So that they can be whatever color I feel like. But like to say for sure that we're not going to cascade one of these vehicles down, I think is potentially a problem keeping our fleet white.
I agree. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
And also, I take offense to saying I didn't include under Sheriff Hobble in the process. I've notified him, I've gone above and beyond to include him.
Who said that you didn't include him?
James
Oh,
just.
I didn't mean to insinuate that at all. I wasn't saying that he wasn't included. He wasn't present here before us when the request was made.
Yeah.
And that it's more of towards,
He didn't show up.
he wasn't
Right.
here. And that wasn't at all insinuating that we didn't include him.
But you said we need to work on including him.
Well,
Making
if I
sure
gave
he's
that
notified.
impression, I really do apologize.
Okay, well, I just wanted to clarify.
Absolutely.
I went above and beyond trying to
Absolutely, I
accommodate
understand
you.
you did, yes.
And I agree.
And I do apologize if I gave
No,
that
it's okay, I
impression.
just wanted to clear that up, that
Absolutely.
we did our due diligence.
Yes. I found it unfortunate that he wasn't here, just to kind of help explain that to us, because we're kind of new at this stuff too.
Well,
And
well-
I wasn't aware of the difference between the police package vehicle and the standard.
being you brought that up, I'd like to explain, and I done it yesterday. The fleet committee made the recommendation, they never got all the way to the board. By the request of Under Sheriff Hobble, we reconvened. part of that request was, I was acceptable to reconvening because of I had other people sit within that meeting, and there was some things got back to me that might be a good idea to reconsider this. And we did. Reconsidered it and we changed, and it was not a unanimous vote to change.
To change what exactly?
We went from one vehicle for our juvenile department, one for the sheriff's department, to eliminating the juvenile department and getting 2 sheriff's rigs.
And when was that?
That was through the process, through the,
No, when?
4 months ago roughly,
Okay.
3 months ago.
I wasn't present for that.
And so, no, so we went through that process, and we had lengthy discussion at the next meeting, and it was not unanimous to do this, but we did push it forward to the Board of Commissioners for a full decision to do 2 sheriff's vehicles based around the budget could not sustain the 2 new vehicles, because outfitting the sheriff's vehicle is $28,000 above and beyond the cost of the vehicle. So you're talking almost $75,000 per vehicle for a vehicle, so that's 2 vehicles, $150 grand.
Mm-hmm.
A juvenile vehicle is about around 30 grand.
Yes.
So to be able to fund this with the monies that we had, Mr. Hobble got creative. He says we have 2 trailers we'll surplus, and we'll put that towards the vehicle money. I will pay out of the mountaintop fund, or the communication fund, not mountaintop, but communication fund, I will pay a percentage of outfitting them. That's about 18 grand.
Mm-hmm.
And the 2 vehicles that we are taking out, he said they are unsafe and we need to get rid of them. They don't need to cascade down. They need to be sold. So we said we will sell those. So we took those numbers, Melanie took those numbers
Absolutely.
and took them in low of what we projected we would get out of those, and was able to work the budget so that we could do 2 law enforcement rigs this year. Not PPVs, but what we've been using for the last so many years. We've worked every angle we could to make sure we could get 2 vehicles. We have not yet even got the pictures of the trailers to be able to put them on for sale. The longer this takes to get done, the closer we get to budget time, and I guarantee you the budget committee is not gonna backfill $160,000.
I'm not arguing that point, and I'm not even arguing for the
But-
police
well,
package
the-
vehicle.
I-
I think,
The only
I think
reason why
just
I'm
trying to
explaining
clarify.
so much is for you guys to know the history
And I appreciate
of
that.
what is there. And our vehicle program has been so good that if we go backwards, the cost is raised up here. You can't hardly, especially whenever we're talking our budget's getting low, it's hard to play catch up. If we miss a year staying on the schedule that the vehicle committees set forward and really worked hard on, it's not just a committee sitting around doing nothing. It's a plan out there, and it's with a vision.
No one,
So-
I'm not saying that I'm not just saying anything against the committees, and I'm not saying that anyone's.
I'm
sitting
just
around doing
explaining the
nothing.
process that we have in place.
I understand that, I appreciate that, and
for
I'm
knowledge.
looking for clarification on some of these things.
Yeah.
I think it's, for me, as far as, because it's on the agenda, I wanted to be able to talk about it a little bit in the regular session where we could, the vehicle purchase policy, I'm not sure if it's something that we need to vote on as far as making a motion to do anything with at this point.
I don't.
My issue is, I'm trying to clarify for myself in this meeting. I want to try and get it over with as soon as possible, obviously, to make that learning curve for both of us as easy as possible. If Paul Hobble asked for 2 gray vehicles, but it came before us as white, and I put my signature on it, and the vehicles were purchased as white vehicles, I'm trying to figure out why. And I understand the cascade effect. If you're going to cascade those vehicles down, it changes things a little bit. You don't want to have a bunch of different colors of vehicles.
I'm going to try to pull us back. I don't believe, we were getting into the discussion, I went a long ways there just to bring you guys up to speed. What we have before us is a sheriff requesting 2 vehicles to change
Yes.
colors. I'm not here to redo the policy.
We can't change
At
the
this-
colors at
at
this
this
point,
time.
I don't think.
Well, we have probably 3 different opinions, or at least 2 different opinions. The request has come. I will call for, is there a motion to, is there a motion of the request of the sheriff coming before us to change the colors of the vehicles?
You wanted us to consider it, yes.
Yeah. So that's what's brought to us. We went into the weeds
Okay,
on
so
the
is
whole
that,
process.
is that what this is here?
That's
The vehicle
what-
purchase policy, is that, is it
What
actually
we-
just a motion
What we
to
had
change the
before us
color?
yesterday was the
Is that the
sheriff
motion?
to request
Okay,
the change of the color of these 2 vehicles.
that's what I'm trying to clarify honestly, is whether or not we're discussing the actual policy, or
Well-
whether or not we're discussing changing the color and taking that into consideration.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, what was brought to us yesterday was, the sheriff had, upon his own, it went past our fleet manager and phoned the distributor to find out if he could change the colors. And so that request came to us yesterday, to consider changing the color to silver, I think. So that's what's before us, in my opinion. We don't have legal counsel on the line. He probably should be on the line today, but anyways, that's the request.
That was my other concern, is whether or not we can actually change the color at this point, and whether or not if we do change the color, if we make a motion right now to change the color of the vehicle, when it's on the original bid to have it as white, will the vendor, or the individual we're purchasing it from, will they want something in writing for their records if we were to change it to gray, which according to them isn't going to cost anything additional?
Yeah.
Yet what?
Anytime you change the color, white
They-
is your cheapest.
They haven't been made yet, and it isn't a different cost according to Kip. And I spoke to him yesterday, actually.
So it won't be, it won't
and-
change the cost?
He called me, and it won't change the cost. And that's what I'm trying to understand.
I have to interrupt us, now he has to buy us all donuts as his phone goes off. That was
okay.
really good to change the direction right now.
So this is what I think we should do.
Go for it, Mark. Thank you.
I think until we know the exact policy, if we do find a policy later on that says all vehicles are gonna be white, and we make a decision to allow this, we will be going against our own policy.
And I don't want to do that.
And then we can have legal problems and that sort of thing on top of it. So this is what I think we should do. Go ahead and take these 2 vehicles as white vehicles. But the next time that the sheriff or the road department or anyone else comes before us and wants a different colored vehicle and states the reasons why, we should consider those reasons. My thought is on like the road department, if it's county policy that every vehicle be white, then these trucks that we buy, used trucks, do we need to paint them white? Should they be painted white? That's gonna cost extra money. The sheriff had a pretty good reasons why that he wanted them a different color. And so from now on, I think the vehicle committee and the commissioners should consider different colors at that time.
So I'm a bit confused.
Okay,
because-
so what I'm saying is I'm making a motion to keep the vehicles white at this time with the thought of consideration of different colored vehicles in the future. Once we decide if this is truly written policy or not, and will stop us right now from getting in any legal problems by going against our own policy.
thoughts on it?
No, it's waiting for a second, if not, it'll die for lack of a second.
The reason
I
I'm
don't-
making the
I
motion-
understand.
The reason I'm making the motion now is because we're waiting on these vehicles to be processed. If we don't make a motion, this is still in limbo, so I think we need to do something.
The vehicles have not apparently been put into, they haven't had the VIN numbers put on yet. And there are some colors that will cost more. But apparently there's the gray and the charcoal, those don't cost additional. Those are standard colors and they'll stay the same. And and this isn't even talking police package or anything else. My issue is, I actually agree with you some, Mark, on as far as the, just keeping it white for now, because if that is our policy, I don't want to deviate. And the issue of the fact that when this was brought before us and we signed it, the vehicle was white. It was asked for 2 white vehicles. And if we change that at this point, I don't know what the legal issues are in regards to that. And so at this point, I will second that actually as a motion, but I want more clarification on this in the future.
Well, that's what I'm
Yeah,
trying to do, so.
and I understand, so I will second that.
So a motion's been made and seconded to, the 2 vehicles to leave them white. Discussion. I don't believe there's any motion necessary when we made it. We made a decision prior to this as a board. We made a decision to purchase 2 vehicles by our purchase agreement. They were stated as white. More clarification from me, the vehicle committee and the guidelines of that are for general fund vehicles. It's not for road department. Road department has different policies and different things on their vehicles. They manage their own fleet out there, so molding it over to there at this point is not a good thing. If in the future we need to get into that business out there, I'm not sure we should. As far as the fleet committee, because they're a special revenue fund, this is general fund over here. So that clarification I would like to get out there. It's apples and oranges in my opinion on that. As far as for the future and the colors, I'm not opposed to having that discussion. I'm disappointed we're getting hung up on perceived policy whenever we have a process in place, and I think we should use the process in place to change any policy or any perceived policy. Even if we cannot find it in writing, you can look around at what we've done in the past. And it was the direction of the Board of Commissioners for efficiencies. The pool vehicles usually at the state pool, you got a better price at the state pool because they ordered white vehicles, and the state was able to compare to that. Over the years, we've been able to use that pool, the state pool price, and get comparable prices out of private vendors. There's a whole lot to this that's got completely blown out of proportion over a color discussion. Disappointed on that, straightforward. I wanted during discussion to be able to get those points out there. Policy can be changed, direction can be changed, or procedure can be changed. I would really, really support for the vehicle committee to be part of that, because they've been so good to work with over the years. They've stepped up and they've really helped make some decisions that's been efficiency decisions. Go ahead.
My department can be looked at as buying a vehicle out of color. Our work crew van is black. At that time, we were faced with our Suburban. We couldn't haul anything with our Suburban because our frame was cracked. From our bumper, too much weight on our bumper, the frame was cracked in the rim, so we couldn't haul anything, and we were right in the middle of firewood and trying to get work done, so we used a county Tahoe, which limited us to our driver and 4 work crew people. At the time, we had an abundance of workers showing up. We were having 8 to 10 people show up, so we were having to make 2 trips to the fairgrounds. Or we'd have to take 200 vehicles out and load people up and take them out this. We have 3 vehicles hauling So when we looked around for what we needed, a four-wheel drive van, we found one at Airport Chevy over in Medford. They bid on it, nobody else bid on it. I could have waited another 4 to 6 weeks for a white van to come in, or I could have just bought the black van. I chose against the vehicle committee's recommendation. I just picked up the black van because I needed it here and now. I was admonished for that because I didn't inform the board of my decision, but I made an executive decision because I needed it. So there's been other departments saying, well, you bought a black van. Yeah, and I was admonished for it, and here's why I did it. I made the executive decision, I needed it. It wasn't anything that was nice to have. As we all know, black is dirty all summer long. White, you get what you get with white. So I'm gonna stay out of the conversation, but being part of the vehicle committee, as Commissioner Winters indicated, there wasn't general consensus for the two pickups because the vehicle we were gonna trade out in juvenile department is an 05. So I was the one that wasn't general consensus because why are we taking a backseat again, another year backseat? So I'm gonna stay out of the color scheme because I am part of that vehicle policy or vehicle fleet committee group. So we start talking policy on vehicles. Do we need a policy or do we need a practice? Because policy's in stone, it takes different meetings to get everybody up to speed and change that policy if we need to down the road. Whereas maybe a written practice is different than policy. This is our practice of what we do. So we're not inclined to be robots based on policies. Have policies for everything we do, what color pins, how you guys sign things up there for your documents, are they blue, black, red, or pink? I think we just need practices as opposed to policies. Our policy is we have to send 3 bids out. If we want Ford, we send 3 bids out for Fords. If we want Chevy, we send 3 bids out for Chevy, and we take the lowest bid. That's the policy.
Yeah.
And do we need to practice just to keep things white? I think practice is more efficient and more user-friendly because we can change our practice down the road. Once the policy is in place, it takes general consensus amongst the board and then educate the fleet committee and then educate the department heads. But we can change practice at any given time. So that's just my 2 cents. And I have a special fund as well. My vehicles, my budget for my adult, we pay for our own vehicles. Our vehicles don't come out of general fund. But I stay in tune with the vehicle fleet practices. We order white vehicles, with the exception of the van. I made that executive decision because I could drive over and pick it up tomorrow, as opposed to wait 4 to 6 weeks and have things kind of, my work group program crumble. So, lessons learned on my behalf. So I'm not, as far as the colors go, I'm staying, and the discussion you guys are having, I'm staying out of that. I will follow whatever practice the board implements, and it trickles down to the vehicle fleet committee.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed or abstained? I abstain because of the decision was already made in a previous meeting whenever we approved the vehicles by the guidelines. So, motion carries.
What
Pardon
was
me?
the cost of those vehicles fully equipped?
I can't tell you, I can give you general off the top of my head. The vehicles were around 38,000, or was it around that?
32,409.
32, and then another 27 to outfit them.
Are you talking,
60,000?
are you talking about the police package vehicles or the ones we just ordered, right?
Well, what I was asking was road ready for a deputy.
Well,
About $75,000.
These vehicles are going to be less money than the previous ones that were PPVs. The PPVs cost, how about if we do this offline, why don't you visit and get the accurate
Okay.
numbers from our
Yeah.
fleet manager?
Yeah.
I would like that
Yeah, she will get you the accurate numbers
Yeah.
because
for
I'm getting,
both types of vehicles.
right, I'm getting different figures from what,
Yeah, yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, so, motion carried, I said that. Rock purchase action consideration. Would we like to get legal counsel on the line?
Yeah, can I clarify the vote, please, for my notes?
Yeah,
Of 1A, 1 abstain, and then what was the other one?
Two voted
2?
yes, and one abstained.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. You may call Mr. Bailey, or? Is that what you said?
But
You want me to call Mr.
we've
Bailey?
already made the motion though, unless you'd
Well,
like to
no,
go back.
we have the rock purchase,
Oh, the rock purchase
and
agreement?
these other
Okay.
things. I would like to have, I think it'd be great for legal counsel to be on there.
Okay,
Because we're
great.
using Rule 9 on the rock crushing, and then I just think it'd be,
I was actually gonna send him a text before we came in, just curious about the rock and
yeah,
things,
Just-
but I ran out of time, so.
for procedural. I didn't think we needed it for the vehicle side of it, just got in the weeds a little bit further than I intended to.
That's fine. Go ahead, Jake.
Just looking at the agenda, I don't see the school district action or consideration here. Did we just table that until further?
Yes, on the truancy, when you and Jack and Bill, Superintendent Bill, we're going to do some follow-up with the judge and some legal
I
things.
just didn't see it on the agenda, so I didn't know exactly, because I stepped out after that.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Is that the board, is that the way you
Yeah,
said it too, was
we
waiting
were
for?
going to table it for now,
Okay.
until you guys had kind of worked some of those things out.
Yeah.
I'll be getting a meeting scheduled with Judge Nichols, to include Mr. Cahill and Mr. Thompson in that.
Yes.
Good
All right,
morning, Bailey.
excellent.
Hello.
Hi, Joni, this is Melanie. Is Mr. Bailey available?
Hold on just a moment. I'm sorry, what's your last name?
Uzini with Lake County?
Oh, okay, hold on just a moment.
Thanks.
Hello?
Hi, Mr. Bailey, it's Melanie. I have you on speakerphone in the board meeting.
Very good.
Mr. Bailey, so wanted to have you on the line. You probably have the agenda with you. We're just down to the second item under other business, the rock purchase. And
Okay.
we had all the updates yesterday and everything, but I wanted you on the line as we're doing these things that take special rules. We're looking at that rock crushing under bidding rule number 9 and want to just make sure legal counsel's on board with it.
Yes, let me back up a little bit so everybody knows what's going on. Any contract involving the county has to be put out for a public bid. And that's where we start. That's with any government agency. However, state law allows local governments to pass a set of what are called contract board review rules. And those can have exemptions to public bidding. And the exemptions all have sort of precautions against undermining the idea of competitive bidding. And so, depending on circumstance, either the board or the department head would make findings or make recommendations to the board regarding a purchase with the assurance that this will not undermine competitive bidding. And often that involves things like there is a single source for the item, and so there is no possibility of competitive bidding. Or we have particular individuals that we contact and they submit proposals to us. And so what we do on occasion, oh, and just another example, there may be an exemption for an emergency contract or contracts that are under $5,000 because those are not considered significant enough in terms of the purchase that's going on. So we have a set of these rules that from time to time, we will go to for an exemption when it's appropriate. And in looking at what we need to do with the rock purchase, and talking to Mr. Hawk about it, I realized that this qualifies under Rule 9, which allows us to do exemptions in particular circumstances where there is not going to be a true competitive bid, either because there isn't anyone else, or the reality is others who might bid on this could meet the price, but then we have other extenuating circumstances, as we do in this case, which would be the cost of transportation from the location or the cost of storing the product. So in talking to Kevin about this, we've got a situation where we really only have one practical source. I mean, legitimately there are other sources of rock, but in terms of what we're doing with this situation, rather than a single source contract, which would be Rule 8, this is Rule 9. And again, there are justifications within the rule that establish the basis for allowing this without undermining competitive bidding. So that's what we've done. And if you've got any questions about that, fire away.
I do not. Any questions?
No, very clear.
So with that, would entertain a motion?
I'll second that. Oh, well, I'll make a motion that we accept this as presented.
The rock
The
purchase.
rock purchase, yes.
And I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the rock purchase, fiscal impact $303,900 using bidding rule exception number 9. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And Jim, I'm going to vary around on our agenda. The next one's right in line, but try to hit the ones for that we may have legal questions, and then if there's any legal updates, so you won't be on the phone for the whole time. So the next one's at Kilmer.
Okay, I appreciate that. I have one little follow-up to this. When Kevin and I were talking, this particular contract or purchase situation was a little unusual, and I had to do a little digging to see if we had a rule that actually applied, and Rule 9 definitely does apply. But while I was doing that, I thought, and initially I had suggested that we have a discussion about a new crushed rock procurement rule. But then I realized we didn't need that, so I asked Melanie to delete that from the agenda. However, in looking at this, what I just want to advise the board I'm going to do is look at our contract review board rules and see if we need to add another one or tweak the ones that we have. So I'm going to engage in that review, and I'll report back to you as to whether or not I think we need to do anything that would be an amendment to our rules. So.
Very good. Thank you. Next item is the Kenworth dump truck purchase. This, Jim, is all through you've reviewed this, and this is all within the guidelines. We went out for the quotes before, and we tabled it until actual dump truck was available, I believe. And this follows all rules to be able to purchase this.
Yes, I spoke with Kevin about this yesterday. This is all okay.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to purchase the Kenworth dump truck, a 1999 Kenworth T800 dump truck, for the price of $55,464 upon their inspection.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the dump truck at 1999 Kenworth T800, purchase price $55,464. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So I'm gonna jump past it. Well, I'm just gonna go ahead and go right on down it, Jim. It's not gonna take that much longer.
That's fine.
Planning Commission positions 2 and 5, we have that. Our planning director was here yesterday. So we have Travis Way, who has been pushed forward from the Planning Commission to fill the empty position. And then we have also for the other position for Wes Davies to be reappointed. So we probably should have that in 2 separate motions.
Yeah. Is that all right with you, Jim, if we made that in 2 different motions?
Yeah, I think it's, you could do it in 1 or 2. It's the same subject matter, really.
Okay,
All right.
no need to belabor it.
No?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Travis Way to the Planning Commission. I'm trying, what position was he taking?
Position, there's 5.
Position 5, and for Wes Davies to be appointed in position 2. And I'm taking your word for that because I don't see it.
It's right here at the bottom.
Perfect.
Yep.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Land sale policy update. Jim, I know that Darwin talked to you about that. We don't have to know hearing process or anything. This is a policy and it's changing dates, so on and so forth. That was brought to us yesterday. Is there anything that that stands out to you or anything? Just procedural?
No, I looked it over, Darwin ran it past me, and this is just a change in the policy. We're not changing the ordinance, so we're free to go forward with it as we wish.
Okay, so I'll move to accept the land sale policy amended as presented.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. The next item is I think we've left something off here, Melanie. We should have the order of the land sale. Should be, am I missing it?
It's not on there.
I don't see it.
Don't see it? Apologize to people who didn't catch that. Our next item should be the order for sale of county properties. It was on our work session. We just missed it on our regular session. So we'll consider that an addition just for the record. Is it just missed?
Yeah, that's all right.
So our next item is the order for sale of county properties for 2019. So entertain a motion on approving of that.
I make a motion for the order of sale of county properties for the year 2019.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the order for sale of county properties for 2019. Further discussion? All in
I'll
favor say.
make one comment for the new commissioners, and that is, from time to time, there are agenda items that come up like this one that are not posted in the agenda, which is always intended to give the public notice of what we're going to consider.
Sure.
Not every agenda item has to be posted in advance. Occasionally, we have things like this that are incidental or were omitted but related to items, and so we can act on those as we're doing now. Sometimes if something comes up that's really different in nature, that's when I would say I think we need to repost this for a different notice of a public meeting.
Yes, thank you for that clarification. I get in the groove of what we've done in the past. Thank you for that. Thank you for that explanation.
Thank you, Jim.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. The next item I have is return of organization property policy. This was brought to us a little bit of wordsmithing within the guidelines, we just have to set it in the policy.
I think it's worded very well.
So I got a question for Jim.
Sure.
So Jim, on that policy of the property returns from employees, we cannot have a financial impact on them if they destroy or make it so we can't bring the back to use the cell phones? We can't make them fiscally responsible for it?
Tell me who brought this forward. I'm trying to find the email where it came to me.
Melanie did.
Okay.
And the problem was, we had an employee bring back a phone, but it was all locked and cannot be used ever.
Right.
But I was just hoping that we could have something to make them financially responsible, because that's a $700 phone.
Well, I think so. I mean, this is the same as destroying county property, in my opinion. I don't see why we can't take action against them for reimbursement. So I'm not finding the policy, unfortunately, so I can't tell you.
Now, you could pursue legal action against them if they did destroy that, correct?
Yes, it actually would be in small claims court, so.
Yes.
But we can't have anything in the policy stating that they will.
I don't see why we can't put it in the policy. And again, I'm not finding the policy in my inbox, so I'm kind of talking in the dark here, so I can't address the specific wording of the policy.
Melanie,
So,
what do you think?
So the intent of the policy, I probably should let Melanie talk, the intent of the
Yeah.
policy was so that whenever we have county issue cell phones and we get them back and they've used their personal IDs and other things and they're locked, was to set the policies that they have to come back and they have to unlock those. The question come up, can we put in the policy that they're financially responsible for it if they don't? And I follow that and everything. The question is there's a legal process that you can take and get that done already. Do we need to state it in the policy? And that's where Commissioner Albertson was wanting to have it stated in the policy. Is it needed in there, or is it just something we go to small claims court and try to make them pay for it?
You do not need it in the policy. The fact that it's not in the policy doesn't limit what we can do.
That's good enough for me.
Okay.
That satisfies me.
I think that's the clarification we needed, was that right there, Jim?
Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
what we would do is we simply notify the employee that, okay, you gave us back destroyed property or defective property or the locked phone, and you have a choice. You can either unlock the phone so we can use it again, or if it's a case of destroyed property or damaged property, then we would just say, you damaged county property, here's the bill. If they don't pay it, then we go to small claims court.
Thank you, Jim. That's good enough for me.
Okay.
So I'll make the motion to change the policy as stated to the return of organization property policy.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Mark, I think your year plan of getting the policies in place may be a struggle.
It's going to be.
Okay, next item, assessor backup. Melanie, this is on this is the IT side of, it's not necessarily the assessor, it's our IT backup for our IT support. is what it is. It's specific to what's being done in the assessor's office right now that hasn't been backed up, correct? All right, entertain a motion. We did have quite an overview yesterday, unless you guys need more of an overview.
No. I think that's good.
I didn't hear you.
Do you
I
entertain a
can-
motion?
I can make a motion. I would like to make a motion to accept the cost for having backup for the assessor's office software. And I don't know if it's called software, whatever it
Assessor backups.
Yeah.
is. Accessory backup. I make a motion to accept the $2,000 cost for doing that.
Yes.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next item is vehicle purchase community corrections, and Jim, this is another one I wanted you on the line for. We went out done our quotes, followed our purchase policy. The low quote was not able to fulfill what was on the quote. And so Melanie has recommended to us, working through you, to go back out and get 3 different quotes and then re-award based on what's within the quote, the guidelines of all the stuff on the quote that Melanie puts in there. And that's where we had awarded this. Is that the appropriate process so that we stay within our audits and everything else, Jim?
Yes, Melanie's probably giving you all the details on this, but we approved a purchase according to certain specifications previously, and then it turned out that what was presented to us was not what what we had approved. And so this is the kind of thing where we can't just substitute and say, oh, okay, we'll take that. We've got to start the process over again because the person who said they could meet what we were asking for, what we approved, couldn't. So we've got to go back and do it over again. So that's what we're doing here.
Okay. So, is there, where that there was another party that put a quote in, what's the correct way for us as a board? Is it to make a motion that we're going out for different RFQs, or how do we, what keeps us in our lane?
Yeah, you can do it either way depending on if circumstances have changed. So if the previous approved proposal, that supplier can't meet it, then you can go back and look at the other folks who had submitted proposals to us and select one of those. Or if circumstances have changed and now we want, maybe we have some different specifications just due to the passage of time. It's probably not the case in purchasing a vehicle, but in other circumstances it might. Then you would just reissue the request for new quotes and go through the process. So if you see somebody else on the previous proposal that meets it now that the one that we approved can't, then you can move to that one if you want to.
Okay, and then, so that's what I want to make sure is we follow that process appropriately. I would hate for the second or the third, if there was 3, I think there's 2, that put in a quote and we change and go back out and they come back and say, hey, we were the next quote, we can supply that. So we probably need some kind of documentation through Melanie that they weren't able to supply at those specifications.
At the time of the original, when we originally approved this, when did we do that?
October.
In October.
In October? Yeah, my recommendation, just so that nobody gets upset about this, is that we reissue a request for quotes because, we're now, 3 to 4 months afterwards, and there might be other folks who could meet the request. So if we were just a month afterwards, depending on the nature of the contract, I'd say, no, just go to the next bid that you find favorable. But I think just out of caution, I think we might as well reissue the request for quotes.
Okay, and I hate belaboring this in a public meeting too much, but being the time has changed, the RFQ will change in nature. It'll probably change the year that we'll be going out for. And so it actually is changing that. And I want to make sure that's within the guidelines because of make sure the second person that put in the quote doesn't come back and say, well, you changed the year and I had these ones in inventory. And so I just want to make sure we're good and we're following our rules.
You're totally fine, because
Okay.
when you put out a request for quotes, you are free to select who you want or to select none of those that were submitted. So in this case, you found one that you wanted, that's not available. We've got 3 to 4 months later, we're going to start the process over again.
Perfect. So I'll make a motion for us to go back out for quotes for the purchase of the vehicle for community corrections with the specifications that that department and Melanie put together.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We're down to, Jim, I don't know your time frame. We're down to just some regular things.
I'm fine. No, don't worry about me.
Okay. Lake County District Attorney Canon lease agreement. Melanie gave us an overview yesterday. Any further thoughts or discussion or questions for Melanie on that? Entertain a motion.
I would make the motion that we replace the current machine in the DA's office.
With the Canon,
Yeah, with the Canon image runner.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to enter into, that's a lease, isn't it, Melanie? I just
Yes.
enter into the lease for the Canon Image Runner Advanced C5535I2.
Where's that?
Any further discussion? I'm sorry, I got to read. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. AOC Legislative Committee. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Sorry,
Sorry,
AOC
I was talking low.
Legislative Committee. Yesterday we had quite a bit of discussion. I believe that we just need to solidify by motion for James to be on that, our representative on the AOC Legislative Committee. I think that's the direction we were talking yesterday. Is there any change or any other discussion needed?
No.
So you made a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint, or for James to take the appointment and to notify AOC that he will be our representative on the Legislative Committee.
And I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Did we need to do that on the national, on the NATO?
To be appointed to the NACO Legislative Committee, Mark, where you're being appointed to the
Public lands?
public land, if there's an opening on the Legislative Committee and that you're able to get on that, it makes perfect sense for you to be that one. So I would say by consensus would be fine for if there's an opening there and as you've got started in NACO, get on that, bring it back and we'll solidify it.
Have you heard back from AOC yet on that?
She says that I'm on, but NATO hasn't done the final paperwork.
Okay.
Yeah. So the NACO actually has a legislative committee conference coming up right away in DC.
Yeah.
And in
I'm
March.
not gonna go to that one because Ann's gonna go with the PILT. And so I didn't want us both going and just for financial reasons but I probably will go to the one in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I'm even considering the one in Las Vegas. You don't get them that close, so the cost is a little bit less compared to going.
It's quite a bit less.
Yes, so I'm considering that, but yes, consensus of the board for Mark to pursue
Absolutely.
legislative committee in the NACO.
Absolutely.
Thumbs up, Mark.
Okay.
Next item, minutes of 1:15 and 1:16. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of 1:15 as presented and 1:16 as presented.
On that second page.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Legal updates, Mr. Bailey.
The only one for open session is, I'm going to talk to Ken Cooper and Jen Stevens about their frustration with enforcement of our nuisance process. There are several additional ways we can address things that are real problems, that are sort of difficult for us to handle in our nuisance ordinance. There's some state laws, and so I'll talk to them about that, but ultimately the decision to apply those state laws is going to be a board decision. So probably what we'll do is ultimately we'll have a process in which we go through the process we already have, and then Ken or Jen will report back to the board on the ability to carry out our policy or our ordinance and our inability to carry out something in a particular situation. And then I would advise the board on its options for taking steps under state law to address the particular nuisance issue. So that's where we are with that. And I'm going to talk to Jay Collins about a union issue after we finish here today.
So I have one question. So I'm the nuisance liaison. So can I be involved with you when you have that conversation with Jen and Ken?
Sure, and I'll send you what I sent to them yesterday as well, so you can see the options that we have for going forward under state law. And then we'll all be on the same page.
All right, thanks.
Well, and Jim, I'd recommend you get that to all three commissioners, because we as a board are the ones that have to approve and change any ordinance or anything, so.
Good idea.
It'd be best for all of us to be aware of what's going on. Any other legal updates?
No, that's it.
Anything for executive session?
Nope, things are kind of quiet.
All right. You should never say that out loud.
No.
I know, yeah, I regret it as soon as I say it, because something's gonna happen for sure now.
Oh, with that, we will adjourn at 5 minutes after 11. All right.
Okay, thank you all.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome, bye-bye.